Hello everybody, welcome back to the Garibaldi Red podcast, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Hayes, your host, and nice to be back as we bring you podcasts after a short break with the international break and not much going on and everything else that surrounds us. But nice to be back as we preview Forest v Brighton in the FA Cup quarter-final. A 5:15 kick-off tomorrow on Saturday as we record this on the Friday before. And, bit of a fun fact, the first ever FA Cup meeting between Brighton and Forest. But Forest have progressed from both previous cup ties against Brighton. That was in the 77-78 League Cup quarter-final and the 3-0 86-87 League Cup second round. I've digged that out from the stats and facts archive for you this episode. But nice to be back, and a possible trip to Wembley awaits us Forest fans again if we can get over the line tomorrow. We will discuss that. Of course, a bit of the international break with Chris Wood unfortunately out for this game and injured, which we're relying on Big T to lead the line. That's a good start for an episode, isn't it, Mark? What a start. Honestly, that's my Wi-Fi, joined by no other. It was almost like I was introducing you and then it threw me off. Joined by no other than the one and only Mark Turner. Mark, good to see you, mate. How are you?
I'm okay. For a second there, I was deer in the headlights. So what do? Do I turn off my camera? Do I start talking? Do I wait? Anyway, good to see you again, Max.
Yeah. Honestly, what is it with us and Wi-Fi and tech problems on this podcast? We were just saying, Mark, before we came on air and before we had all these tech problems that we both got the knitted memo. So nice jumpers. You were saying yours was from Next, so there you go. You said yours is from Next.
Yours is from Next. Although now that you say that,
you're gonna have to check the label.
Mine's Lucky Brand.
Very nice. Yeah, if you're also wearing a knitted jumper on this Friday, let us know. What does this podcast become at times? Put it in the comments. Keep us going while we try and avoid any more tech problems. Right, let's get into it, shall we, Mark? And let's talk about the international break for Forest, almost where we sit. I just seen this comment from Michael. I like the new host, Mark Turner. Yeah, me too. He's good, isn't he? Let's talk about almost where Forest sit in this international break going in. It's the last one before the kind of final run-in. It is the final run-in now. You feel like this is the final push for the Reds. We've got a trip to get to Wembley, a chance for a trip to Wembley tomorrow. But when you kind of look back and assess, Murillo obviously getting featured, his Brazil debut, Chris Wood sadly getting injured. But, you know, a bit of a positive international break, and hopefully something that's come at the right time for the players ahead of such a kind of a big, crucial next month or so before the season ends.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the players respond after the international break. I mean, a lot's been said, of course, about Morgan Gibbs-White not being included in the England squad, then being pulled in last minute, and then basically being completely ignored for both games. So we can certainly get into the weeds on that one a little bit if you like. But I think, like Morgan Gibbs-White, we'd probably all just be happy to forget his international break and just move on. But Forest players did well generally, I think, during the break. You mentioned Murillo, obviously had a bit of a rough time, but he's been desperate to get into that Brazil team and get his feet under him and start adding caps. And, you know, he has that opportunity, and it was tough competition. And so it was a bit of an awakening for him. But I think that it's a good thing. I think that will help build his character and his experience. Anthony Elanga, I think, had a good break. Miko Williams had a good break. Ola Aina as well for Nigeria, of course, had a really good break as well. So you have to imagine the Forest players are going to come back bouncing. Of course, the outlier, as you mentioned, is Chris Wood. Now, Chris Wood had a great break in as much as New Zealand qualified for the World Cup. So that's fantastic. But in the process, I guess, picked up a hip injury. It didn't look too severe at the time, so I'm wondering if his absence this weekend, Max, is more, I hate using this common term, but an abundance of caution. Because you can't, to your earlier point, we can't really afford to risk him on what is now a critical run-in. Forest have that Champions League place, you know, they have their fingers around it. It's time to close those fingers and grasp it. It's there to be won. I need Chris Wood to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a funny one, and you talk about Forest almost having one hand now on the Champions League. And, you know, people talk about what is a priority. Would you rather get Champions League football, or would you rather win the FA Cup? Would you rather get to the final potentially at Wembley? Well, we'd rather have both, right? But it is a difficult one, and I think Nuno will probably be looking at Wood, and you're right, using it as a bit of a time for caution. And Taiwo hasn't been, and we try and we've discussed him a lot recently on the podcast. We've discussed him a lot this season, whether he will ever find the form that we associate Taiwo Awoniyi with. But recently, I've been slightly impressed. I think he's got better. I think he's shown a little bit more of what Big T can do, and being that physical presence in the air. So, I mean, it is frustrating that Wood's out tomorrow, Mark, but as Steve Cooper used to say, that next man up mentality comes in, and Taiwo has to be chomping at the bit to make a difference and to try and earn a place back in the squad. And tomorrow's the perfect chance to do it, and he could, write himself into Forest history of getting us to the FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We've seen flashes of the old T this season. As the season's rolled on, he seems to have his confidence back, and we're seeing that physicality that we've been so accustomed to. Be nice as well to see him stretch his legs a little bit to get balls he can actually run onto, because I remember him having some pace as well and being just a real nightmare for defenders. So it would be good to see a little bit more of that tomorrow, of course. So I'm less concerned about Taiwo playing than I am about Wood's absence, if that makes sense. I think the thing we come to really appreciate from Chris Wood is that he lives off scraps. He makes the most of very little. It's not like, for those of our listeners and viewers who are of an older persuasion, it's not like an Andy Cole or an Andrew Cole, who was undoubtedly a great striker with a great track record. But the running joke was he needed 5 opportunities to score 1 goal. Chris Wood's been quite the opposite this year. That isn't to say we haven't been a threat offensively, but he hasn't had. It's not like he's had an abundance of opportunities. That's twice I've used the word abundance in this podcast, which is bizarre. I can't remember the last time I used that word. But that's one thing you come to rely on from Chris Wood. And I don't know that Taiwo is necessarily that same kind of player. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow, Max, especially against what is essentially a fully fit Brighton squad. I think the only player that they're currently forecasting as being unavailable is Lamptey. I think everybody else is back from their knocks and bumps and injuries and whatnot. So it's going to be a tough ask for Forest on the South Coast tomorrow.
Absolutely. I think obviously having the home advantage is, I do think that's there in maybe arguably a cup game more than a league game. I think to try and get the kind of players and the fans will be on their side. And also you forget Brighton will want revenge. It's a very easy team talk for the Brighton manager tomorrow to just give that motivation. It doesn't really need that much extra motivation. Nope. You've got a possible trip to make history for the club history. You've got a possible trip to Wembley, and you've also got the chance to make that revenge and obviously everything with the 7-0. So it's one of those, isn't it? And I think that Brighton will be up for it.
Yeah, and I think as well we need to remember that yes, okay, we battered Brighton 7-0, but Brighton were in that game until they weren't, which is, I can't think of a better way to say that, but you know what I mean? Like, they were competitive. Danny Welbeck, I think, rang the crossbar, and I mean, it wasn't like Forest completely rolled them over from the first minute. Forest just got up ahead of steam, to my earlier point, made the most of the chances that came their way, till it got to that sort of tipping point, which you see in games, right, where teams are sort of 4, and then suddenly it's 5, and then you just know they're done for the day. Right, they sort of shut up shop and everything else, and so when it ends up being 7, it's definitely a flattering scoreline. But Brighton, I mean, they're not whipping boys. We saw what they did before that result. We've seen what they've done subsequently. So I'm just looking here. They're one of the so obviously there's 8 teams in the quarterfinal. They're one of 4 that have never won the FA Cup. So they're absolutely going to be up for. I mean, the last time we won it was 1959. Even I can't remember that one, Max. So.
Really? No, definitely. We'll get more into the game as this podcast goes on. Wanted to talk about, and you obviously mentioned at the start, Mark, about Morgan Gibbs-White and him having a really arguably poor international rate. That's not his fault, but that's the powers that be at the FA and Thomas Tuchel. Of course, getting that last minute call up, and then ultimately, he was included in the squad for the last game and doesn't get chosen. And Jordan Henderson gets chosen and brought on. Words really do fail me. I just wonder what you think to that, and do you think it will affect Morgan's confidence, or do you think it has the possible to go the other way and almost really get him kind of going now and showing England and showing Tuchel what they've missed out on and maybe will do?
Well, obviously, I don't know Morgan Gibbs-White. I don't know kind of how he deals with these things mentally. But I would suggest it's not going to have one jot of difference to him. I think he's been fantastic before he started getting called up by England. He's been fantastic between each of the international breaks, and I think he'll go on to have a strong end to the season. You mentioned the Jordan Henderson thing. Yes, that was galling, but I think what would be even more frustrating for me if I was Morgan Gibbs-White is seeing, and I'm blanking now. The guy from Villa, Morgan
Rogers.
Thank you. I want to say Roberts, but I knew that was wrong. Rogers, who's an excellent player, by the way, and I think arguably should be ahead of Morgan Gibbs-White based on the season that he's had as well. But they're pretty much neck and neck. But seeing him get his chance and thinking, okay, well that's good. Like that suggests to me that the coach is considering the young players, and I'm going to get a few minutes here. And then to see in that second game, Phil Foden get pulled off the bench to go play in that central position, that would have really ticked me off, given Foden's performances in an England shirt the last sort of year or so. So it's definitely difficult for Morgan, but he knows how good he is. He knows how much we value him. And you only have to look at our position in the league and consider how much he's contributed to that to know that, he's an outstanding player. And so I don't think it's going to affect him at all, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. Saw him return to training the other day. Forest put a video on social media, so back where he's appreciated, back where he's loved. And I've got to say, just from an England point of view, I didn't think Thomas Tuchel's been all that so far. I think that the performances have been pretty bang average. Not much has changed since Gareth Southgate trying to walk it into the net. Yeah, I didn't think the team selections, the players. Put it this way, I don't have much confidence going into the World Cup. That is all I will say. So we'll see.
A fan of the appointment. Don't think a whole lot's going to change. So
I agree, and also I think it shows the problem that we face. That there's this almost. Let me try and find the word. Possible snobbiness or Big Six mentality again. That they will constantly pick players from the Big Six, from the favouted clubs in England. Because Forest are Forest, they won't pick Morgan Gibbs-White. And there's been a bit of an article in The Athletic that suggests Tuchel was advising players on which clubs to go to better their chances at playing international football, which is just ridiculous when you think about that. And as the manager of the national team, the manager of a country, you should not be doing that. So, as you can see, Thomas Tuchel has made my blood boil recently. Anyway, moving on to Forest, because that's what we're here to talk about. Tomorrow, Wood obviously out, Taiwo to lead the line, unless we see something different. In terms of the team selection, Mark, if you're Nuno, this is a chance to make Wembley, it's a chance to make club history. You've got to go with a full strength side, and it's going to be difficult. So you've got to chuck everything at it.
Yes, you do. And you actually touched on a really interesting point there as well at the top of that setup, in as much as it may not be Taiwo leading the line. We may see something different. We've seen Nuno do that before with Anthony, with MG Dub, and so we might see some kind of interesting mix-up where we have a false nine or we have a couple of tens, or there's probably other ways to skin that cat. So it'll be interesting. And also, I would be happy seeing Taiwo lead the line. Equally, it wouldn't be a horrible thing to have Taiwo on the bench to come off the bench later in the game as well, assuming we can hold Brighton at bay. And I think it is going to be a case of that. I think you have to consider that, Max. You've already mentioned we're away at a place that's difficult to go win. We're playing against a team that, based on our last engagement with them, are a wounded animal and are going to have something to prove, who have never won the FA Cup, who are within touching distance of Wembley. I think they're going to come at us. And so I suspect Nuno is going to try and batten down the hatches. He's going to try and absorb the pressure, try and catch them on the counter. So I wouldn't be wholly surprised to see Taiwo coming off the bench later on as opposed to starting from the first whistle. But either way, yeah, to your point, I mean, there's no keeping the powder dry at this point. We're on the home stretch now, both in terms of the league and an opportunity to win FA Cup silverware. So, yeah, you put your best lineup out at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, bar Wood, let's say Taiwo does replace him. Do you think it will be pretty much the same lineup that was the game against Ipswich?
Yeah, the only thing I think that might be in the mix a little bit is Yates and Dominguez.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, that might be a question that needs to be answered. And honestly, there's no wrong way to answer that question. I think it's weird, isn't it? We were very critical about Anthony Elanga earlier in the season, and again, rightly so. And now he's gone on to have a blistering season. I was critical of Dominguez a few weeks back, and he's arguably had a stretch of his best performances in Forest shirt now. So I'm not taking any credit for that, but the timing of it is a little bizarre. So I wouldn't, as much of a Yates fan as I am, I wouldn't hate to see Dominguez start. Equally, I love putting the Ryan Yates shaped cat among the seagulls. That would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I do just keep looking at tomorrow, and I think, yeah, we're third in the league and Champions League football, and the league is probably the priority and what we all want. And in terms of a financial point of view, playing Champions League football, the financial almost pull is bigger for the club. But for Forest, I'm not saying that this has been an easy and I'm not saying that there's easy teams left. There's teams that Forest can beat, bar Bournemouth. I do think. What's bizarre is, and I was actually looking at, obviously, bet responsibly. I was looking at the bookies and the favourites, and Forest were like third, fourth favourite to win the FA Cup. And I'm thinking, well, actually, we're the highest ranked team left in the competition. So I was about to say, are Forest underdogs to win the competition? Well, maybe actually not if you're someone from the outside looking in. But this is a big chance for Forest to possibly get to the final of the FA Cup. This is the one we all talk about. I know it's lost its magic, but could you imagine that, Mark?
I mean, I can imagine it.
Dream about it.
You have to remember, I came up when Forest were, basically they had, I think they hired out an entire all the bed and breakfasts within about a quarter-mile radius of Wembley because they were there so frequently. So seeing them at Wembley contesting the League Cup, obviously the FA Cup, and that ill-fated game against Tottenham. I've seen this, so I can imagine it. I can draw from memory. I think it'd be fantastic for this generation of fans to see Forest back at Wembley contesting the FA Cup. I don't think it depends how you're gauging magic. I don't think it's lost its magic. I still think the FA Cup is a fantastic competition. And I think if you ask foreign press as well, there's nothing like it elsewhere. I remember listening to an episode of one of the Five Live podcasts, and I think they had Julian Laurent on there, and they had a couple of others, and they were saying, after the FA Cup, if we're all on the same page that we agree the FA Cup is the greatest domestic cup competition in world football, what's the second greatest? Like, which nation has the second greatest? And they were really struggling, even with their own countries. They were like, it's not even close. Like, the way we do it, the emphasis we put on it, the history that's wrapped up in it, it's just not the same. So, yes, the FA Cup's had a couple of dings over the last few years, but I still think it's magical. And I think Forest being at Wembley and potentially lifting it, that would be... Well, it would be great, but I probably wouldn't be there. So it would be a bitter pill to swallow, but I'd still love to see it.
Surely we can get you a ticket, mate.
I mean, getting the ticket probably isn't the issue, mate. It's the $1,000 the plane ticket.
Yeah. Negotiating with the wife.
Yeah. And all the money that needs to get spent on beer, especially. So again, drink responsibly as well as bet responsibly.
We like to be safe on this podcast. Can Forest do it tomorrow, Mark? Then
they can. I don't think
you have confidence in the side, but you don't think we will.
No, I don't. I don't. I think at Brighton with a fully fit Brighton. Again, I'm not going to rehash myself all the things I said 5 minutes ago. Plus, now you don't have our top scorer and talismanic line leader in Chris Wood available to us. As much as in Taiwo we trust, I just have a bad feeling about tomorrow. So, do I think we can do it? Yes. Do I want us to do it? Of course I do. I would be absolutely giddy to see us get over the line and head to Wembley for the semi-final. Do I think we will? I think Brighton are going to come out on this one. I do, unfortunately. So, prove me wrong, Forest. I'd be very, very happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think Forest will do it. This is a season to break those unlucky records and for players to step up. And I also think Anthony Elanga. I think Anthony Elanga's had a brilliant international break. When you look at him for Sweden, and we talked about criticising him, rightly so. But since the criticism, since the questions were asked, since Nuno took him to one side and gave him a bit of a breather and a bit of a chance, I think he's switched it on, and I think his form has been top. And I am just hopeful, really, really hopeful, that he'll be able to keep it going, and hopeful tomorrow that certain players will show up, including Taiwo. This is a big chance for him. Like, come on, Taiwo, show us what you can do. My dad's just commented, I'm preparing the spare room for Mark's visit.
Cheers, I appreciate that.
You can have my room if you want, Mark.
I think I probably could get a ticket, honestly. It just down to airfare. So, I don't know, we'll look at the pennies. Forest, give me that problem, please.
We will see. All right then, mate. Give us a prediction quickly. If you think we're going to lose.
Oh, you can't. No, I'm not doing a prediction. I'm not doing a prediction because I can't say out loud like numbers that are not in Forest's favour. That's just horrible karma. Because I want Forest to do it, and they can do it. I'm erring on the side of caution and believing that Brighton will probably come out on top. But I refuse to attach numbers to it. I'm sorry.
Fair enough, mate. All right.
But you're upbeat. You think Forest will? So.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I actually think Forest have got a chance. I think knowing Forest will probably win on penalties or something. No, I don't. But you never know. Honestly, kind of the way it's been this season. I think Forest will do it in normal time. 2-1 Forest. 2-1. Taiwo to score one. Taiwo to score one. I think Elliot Anderson will get on the score sheet tomorrow.
Great. So if they do go to pens, Chris Wood is one of the regular penalty takers. So in his absence, who do you want to see fill that spot?
Not Taiwo after that Newcastle penalty. The ball might end up back in Nottingham. It might end up in the sea on the south coast. I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else. I think obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga. I think they've been probably two key penalty takers. You'd have Murillo on.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Get Sal's on it probably.
It made me laugh in the week. Somebody was watching the Brazil game or they're watching highlights or whatever, and they said, wow, Murillo's shorts look huge on him. And somebody else commented, don't they always? They do. Like, I think you must have really wide hips or Stuart Pearce-esque thighs or something that require you to wear shorts that appear 2 sizes too big for him. It's pretty amusing, but evidently he had the same look for Brazil. So. Mm-hmm.
Mark says Forest to win 3-2. Morgan, Gibbs-White, Milenkovic, and Elanga. At least we've got a positive mark in the house, eh? Well, look, fingers crossed. Forest will do it on Saturday. We'll bring you reaction on. Well, Sunday's Mother's Day, so I'm probably going to be a bit tied up. So it'll probably be Monday. So we'll probably bring you reaction Monday morning, first thing. But if Forest,
I have something for you though. Before you go,
go on, Mark. No. Go on.
All right, okay. And I got permission to share this. And
of course.
You'll be able to hear this. Are you familiar with the Garibaldi Bard?
I am, and the songs that he releases on social media.
Very good. So he's the son of one of the lads that's on the North American WhatsApp group over here. Thoroughly nice bloke, and I don't know the Garibaldi Bard personally, but hopefully we'll pick this out because I wanted just to share just a snippet of his latest tune because it is a banger. So
go on, Mark. Hold it to the mic.
Can you hear that? Sing along if you know it.
I mean, you can probably check out the full HD version on the Garibaldi Bard's Twitter.
Let's just get to the chorus.
Yes, come on, Mark.
Here we go. To Barcelona. Lazio Roma.
It's good, isn't it? It's very good. The lyrics are good on it as well. He does a very good job. I agree. I've seen it on social media, on Twitter, and I saw it on TikTok, and it went viral on TikTok. It had something like nearly 1 million views from the wider footballing world. So if you want to go and check it out with full HD quality, you can do so on Garibaldi Bard. Lovely. No, great job. We might try and get him on the podcast. Although I don't think he's revealed his face yet. So whether he wants to get a little bit more publicity and show his face on the podcast, we will have to see. But yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Forest win, might do a bit earlier, especially with a trip to Wembley. And then Mark, you can start begging for tickets and things. We will. We'll see you outside the club shop, queuing up for tickets from 6 a.m. when they get released.
You know people, Max. You're connected now, you BBC boy.
I don't know that many people, mate. I'm quite lonely. Fingers crossed, Forest.
Sad note.
I'm joking. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Of course, I'm not. I just don't want people like you begging for tickets. I'm only kidding. We will be back. We'll be back on Sunday, Monday. Mark says go fund for Mark Turner. Yeah, we'll get it. So just come on, Mark. You've got that nice sofa in the backdrop. You'll be fine to get over here. I'm sure you can fund it. We'll be back on Sunday or Monday with reaction to Brighton. Fingers crossed Forest can do it. Safe trip for those going as well. Bit of a long way. And we've put in the miles recently, haven't we, as Forest fans? There's been some blooming long trips, but fair play to those going tomorrow. Enjoy it, keep singing, and hopefully, I was about to say bring back 3 points, hopefully bring back a trip to Wembley. It would be nice for this younger generation, wouldn't it? And top off, what a brilliant season it has been. Mark, thanks as ever, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah, and sorry for those first 10 seconds of madness when we went. And I thought the programme was getting shut down. I thought we'd been hacked or something. Talking of being hacked, my Instagram's been hacked this week. So if anyone watches this podcast that is an Instagram expert or knows how to get a hacked Instagram account back, they've temporarily suspended me. They started posting Bitcoin and crypto stuff, and I was like, well, I'm telling you now, I don't have all this money to give away. So whoever hacked it must be a millionaire. So I can't get back into it. So if you're an say again.
Even the world thinks you're famous now to get hacked, mate. Congratulations.
Yeah, at least I haven't really been impersonated. I've just been hacked. So yeah, if anyone who's an Instagram expert and watches this podcast, there might be somebody out there that's from Meta or I don't know, Zuckerberg watches it. Give us a shout and try. Let me just speak to a human. I've tried putting in about 8 forms and can't get into it. So you never know. Fingers crossed. Thanks as ever, Mark. Appreciate it. We will see you on Monday or Sunday for our post-match show. Safe trip down to those tomorrow. Give us a like, share and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Can Forest make it to Wembley? Of course we can. Come on, you Red.